The hundreds of masks and puppets in The Lion King are truly unique. Not only do they need to convey the characters and the animals in the show, they also need to be able to withstand 8 shows a week. You can imagine that making and maintaining these masks is a huge job. Let's explore the puppet department a bit more and find out what it takes.
One of the most complicated elements of The Lion King that look the most simple are the masks and the puppets. We start with the fact that Julie Taymor sculpted them herself. That as she began to think about how she would tell this story, as the director, she was sculpting these pieces. And so they all go through kind of the lens of how she sees the world.
There's inspiration from Japan in the costumes. There's inspiration from the Bunraku Japanese puppet theater in Timon. There's inspiration from shadow puppets, ombre chinoise they're called, but that might be from Indonesia. Then there are the African masks.
They're all intended to look handcrafted. That mask could have been made 500, 1,000, 2,000 years ago, and masks like these were used 2,000 years ago.
So what were some of the creative processes behind bringing the animals to the stage in puppet form?
If you see the opening of the Lion King animated film, and that's where I was starting from, you're going to see these beautiful herds of leaping gazelles. If you're watching gazelles, again, you're going from the movement, this beautiful movement. I sort of took the idea of a wheelbarrow and bicycle wheels and thought, we're going to be able to, in the circle of life, to do 2 things at once. The double event. We're going to be able to have the animals leaping and the theme, the circle, and it will take one person.
With concepts for the masks and puppets in place, the next challenge for the creative team was to find the performers capable of working with them to effectively tell the story.
It really called on all of Julie Taymor's skill as a director to bring these things to life. So they weren't just carrying them, but they were acting with them, that they were present with them.
In the audition process, it ultimately ends with several puppet workshops. So there are many people who come in and they're actors, and they're terrific on their own, but if you hand them a puppet, suddenly they disappear. So if you're acting with a puppet in front of your face, it's incorporated, and you act through the puppet. These are real actors who have to take on the extra task of bringing a puppet to life.
They're not looking at you anymore, they're looking at what you present. So it's really, your inner can come out through this mask. So masks are actually very liberating for people, because when you put on these things, you are released from yourself. And so the operation of the puppetry and the movement of the actors with the masks is as important in the storytelling in the theater as the story itself.
Behind the incredible ideas is a dedicated masks and puppets team whose job it is to make them a reality. I met up with the head of department, Joseph Beagley, to explore their workshop and find out how they do it. So tell us how it works, what goes on in here.
Well, I run a small team, about 6 people, and we are responsible for the masks and the puppets and their general upkeep. 2 of us have to be here for a show in case anything breaks, but the majority of our work is done during the day when there is no show on. We're helping with rehearsals, we're doing refurbishments, and any repairs that need to be done ready for the show. We have, for example, Pumbaa, which you'd probably describe as more of a creature costume because it kind of surrounds all of him. You've got Zazu, which is an external puppet. He's kind of got strings and mechanisms. And then you've got the masks, which are all kind of mounted to the performer's head and don't have too much animation about them, but they still convey a lot of character.
Mufasa, the main man, what's it made out of, the mask?
His mask is actually made out of carbon fiber. It's really light, it's strong, it's durable. The mane, for example, is made out of burnt peacock feathers, and the actual sticks that hold on the mane, it's balsa wood. You carve them all out, paint them up, and then the whole mask itself is painted to give it a wood finish.
The future king in all his glory, but Simba doesn't always start looking like this, does he?
Back at the beginning, it would have been sculpted in clay, and then a mould been made out of it, which is how we end up with this raw carbon version.
There is so much going on here. Just talk us through some of the detail that you added.
We have to make all of these prongs and all of these little tabs that are made out of leather, all of these parts which are made out of horsehair, obviously loads of layers of paint to try and kind of add brightness and different textures and hide the fact that it's made of carbon fibre, which is quite a light and modern material.
Yes.
But we want it to look natural and like it's come from Africa and it's a traditional mask.
There are so many amazing puppets throughout the whole production, but surely Zazu has got to be right up there with the best of them, hasn't he?
He's one of my favourites, yeah. He's the one which is classically a puppet, as you imagine them to be.
Yeah. How does it work then, Chippy? How does he work?
Well, you've got this trigger here, controls the beak. Then we've got this that you can use to control the eyes. You use your thumb for that one. And then you've got this, which controls the wings. It's a bit more tricky, that one.
See, even that, I feel like I'm getting too close to a real bird right there.
The poetry in theater is its transparency. We're not fooling you to have you really think that you're in a jungle, that you really think it's a giraffe. We don't need to do that in the theater. We have an audience that's dying to suspend their disbelief, not willing, hungry. They're there to be taken for a ride